Hi folks, welcome back to the ranch. Today's project, hot water tank. Put it in 3 years ago, works great, it's a good tank. Unfortunately here on the ranch we're on a well. We drink the water out of the well, it's clean, it's clear, it tastes great, but there is more minerals in the water than the elements like the heating elements. So what happens is the minerals build up on the heating elements in the tank, so we have to take the elements out. We're going to use some CLR to remove the mineral buildups on the elements, and then we'll put them back in. But step one, we have to go turn off the 220 power at the breaker. Then we're going to have to come out here and empty this tank. We have to be able to pull the elements out. If we do without emptying the tank, we're going to have water everywhere. So we'll shut off the main inlet water. Then we've got a hose attached to the bottom drain on the tank, and I have a drain in the floor here, very conveniently right beside the tank. So we'll turn the cold water off, open the valve at the bottom, and then on the hot water side, if you go into the other part of the house, anywhere a tap's close, and open the hot water valve, it'll allow the air to come in this line, and so as the water goes down in the tank, the air can come in and it'll allow the tank to empty through the hose. If you keep this shut, the air can't get in, so the tank really doesn't want to empty. So we'll do those steps, then we'll come back and I'll pull the covers off. We'll measure them with our voltmeter and make sure that we're not going to get barbecued. And we'll pull the elements and see what they look like. And then we'll get on with cleaning them up, put them back in. So I'll get on with those steps. We'll be right back. So there's the covers we have to pull off to get to our heating elements, the upper one and the lower one. And then there's our drain and the hose and my drain in the floor. So anyways, that worked quite well. Emptied the tank. Now we'll pull these two covers, do a voltage check just to make sure everything's good, and we'll get on with pulling the elements out. Okay, so let's pull the covers off of here and see what we have inside. A little bit of fiberglass insulation that keeps the heat in your tank. And remember, fiberglass isn't the best thing. If you're using very much of it, you should always use a mask and gloves. But there's just a couple of small pieces here, so I'll just pull those out, put those aside. So here's a nice little plastic cover. It keeps you from getting electrocuted from your 220 volt, which comes from the breaker, which we've already turned off and we've checked. But once we pull this cover off, we're going to check the voltage and make sure that we're definitely have no voltage there. There we go, cover's off. This is the thermostat section up here. This is a reset button. If it was to pop, you could tell that this particular electrode, or say again, element would not be heating because it popped the breaker at this station. But it's fine. It's set and everything's good. So now we'll measure across our across our input to our element to be sure that we've not got any voltage there. So we've set our meter, voltmeter, AC volts. It has 200 or 500 volts on this little cheapo meter I have here, but it's we're about 240, of course, 230, 240 for the input on this. So we'll have to take the 500 for our test. So we will go on here. Try to do this so you can see the whole thing at the same time. And across the main feed into the thermostat, there's 0 voltage. So we're pretty good. And in fact, I'll hold that on there and I'll just show you right there. Excellent. Okay, meter's off, and now I'll take it apart. So I have a pair of pliers just for lifting these wires out of here. Now, this element takes a 1.5 inch socket to get the element out. I don't have a 1.5 inch socket. So this is a little bit of a Bojang event, but it works okay. Big crescent wrench, this will open up to 1.5 inches. So I've set it up so I can get onto the element here. There we go. Onto the element, and then I can see if it's loose enough. Yes, it's loose enough. I can just twist it out. It's going to be interesting to see what we've got in here as far as calcium buildup on the electrode, the heating element. I guess it's not really an electrode. On the heating element, you can hear it sucking a little air in there. I'll open our valve a little more at the bottom just to ensure that there's no more water in there. Just a little bit more draining out. Well, that one doesn't look all that bad. So that's the buildup of calcium and lime and scale that we have on the element, which isn't very bad. But our temperature, you know, you get in the shower and the temperature drops off quite quickly, so it's not heating the water at a very high rate. And this is a fairly large tank, so we're not running it dry. Or saying, you know, running the water out to the point where we're using it all up. Anyways, that'll be a pretty easy cleanup. We'll have a look at that, and then we'll pull the bottom one and see what it looks like. Okay, we'll take off the bottom cover now and get into the element. See what we have on the bottom element. Same thing, fiberglass cover keeps the temperature in. Just don't put a lot of it in the air and it's fine. Same cover, pull the cover off. Yeah, this one, as you can see, quite a bit more calcium and buildup at this end. Looks like I've maybe knocked a little of it off coming out, but considerably more on the bottom element than the top element. So we'll clean these ones up and put them back in, see how they work. So So what I've done here now is just taken a piece of 1 1/4 ABS plastic pipe. Because of our social distancing that's going on, I just made a cap out of a piece of ABS plastic and a reducer. Anyways, just made a cap for the end of it. What we've got here is just a smaller volume to fill up with our CLR, so we don't, we don't need a ton of it. And our electrode just goes in here like that, and then leave it sit for, well, as long as required. I mean, we can keep checking it. We'll lift it up and check and make sure it's cleaned up. Once it's all cleaned up, we'll be ready to reinstall it. So let's pour some CLR in there. Careful not to fill it too full so we don't leak out all over the sides when we do this. No, just needs a little more. Top it up. There we go. So we'll let that sit for whatever amount of time we need, and when they're cleaned up, I'll show you the next step. It's ear day today on the ranch. Gotta keep those ears clean. Right, fun. Well, there we go. 45 minutes in the CLR cleans them up pretty nice. Tiny bit of scale here and there. Not much we can do about it. That's okay. Much cleaner than they were. So we'll put them back in and see what we get. Excellent. Let's put them back in. Reconnect them, the wires look good. Put our little insulation back in. Oh, no, I have to put on our protector. There we go. Now our little insulation covers. Keep the heat in. And our cover back on. There we go. That one's back on. Let's go get the other one. We'll put it back on. Now before we can turn it back on at the breaker box, we have to fill it up with water. If we turn it on with the elements back in there at the breaker box before it's full of water, of course it'll just burn out the elements. So I'm going to fill her up with water. Once it's full of water, I'm going to turn on the elements and see how it does. Pretty much that's the installation. It's just going to warm up and we'll use it later, have a nice shower in the morning. It'll all be good. Once again, thanks for having a watch what we're doing here on the ranch. And remember, fear and common sense, that's the only thing that's going to stop you from getting things done.